Tell me something. Could you take seriously a person who claims to believe the Bible and yet who so grossly and routinely misquotes it that, well, he could be reading the New York Times for all it matters? I have to admit that I'm a little disappointed. A couple of weeks ago we put a sermon clip online relating to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that sermon clip has not only received a number of views, but a great number of comments showing up in my inbox. Sadly, those comments, mostly from Jehovah's Witnesses, have offered absolutely no meaningful, credible, biblical argument against the position that I espouse. I said that salvation was by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, absolutely devoid of human work or effort or merit, and they have countered with all kinds of Bible verses and all kinds of snide little comments, but none of them provide an exegetically sound response at all. None of them are meaningful. Let me give you an example, and here I'm not being random at all. I've simply picked the most common verse cited in the various responses from various Jehovah's Witness respondents, Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. Now remember what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that salvation is not of works. It is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. Something that God does and that man does not. Jehovah's Witnesses, on the other hand, believe that salvation is something one must earn through good works. Now I want you to listen to the text cited. And remember, this is offered by Jehovah's Witnesses as evidence for their position. I want you to tell me, as a rational thinking person, whether or not you believe that this text preaches salvation by works. Listen carefully. Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. So then, my beloved, just as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And that's the end of verse 12. Two problems with using this in support of works doctrine. Firstly, the text says that we should work out our salvation with fear and trembling. In context, Paul is speaking to believers here. These are people who have already received salvation. You work out what you've already received. You don't work for it. And the text doesn't say work for your salvation, it says work out. Secondly, verse 12 is only half the sentence. Now, listen carefully. Verse 12 again, now then, my beloved, just as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who is at work in you. This is the beginning of verse 13, second half of the sentence. God is at work in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure. Who is the one doing the saving work in this case? God. Not man. And the individuals being addressed are who? Believers. And are they to work for their salvation? No. They're commanded to work out their salvation. You work out what you already possess. So can you see why it is I have a very hard time taking seriously Jehovah's Witnesses and others who offer these ridiculous responses to careful biblical exegesis? Come on, guys, you can do better than this.